And is there something beyond cellular? So you mentioned lifestyle interventions or changes as a way to, or like be able to prescribe changes in lifestyle. Like what about organs? What about like the function of the body as a whole?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely. So basically, when you go to your doctor, they always measure, your pulse. They always measure your height. They always measure your weight, your BMI. So basically, these are just very basic variables. But with digital devices nowadays, you can start measuring hundreds of variables for every individual. You can basically also phenotype cognitively through tests. Alzheimer's patients. There are cognitive tests that you can measure that you typically do for cognitive decline. These mini mental observations that you have specific questions to. You can think of sort of enlarging the set of cognitive tests. So in the mouse, for example, you do experiments for how do they get out of mazes, how do they find food, whether they recall a fear, whether they shake in a new environment, and so on and so forth. In the human, you can have much, much richer phenotypes, where you can basically say, not just imaging at the, organ level, but and all kinds of other activities at the organ level, but you can also do at the organism level. You can do behavioral tests. And how did they do on empathy? How did they do on memory? How did they do on long-term memory versus short-term memory? And so on and so forth.
I love how you're calling that phenotype. I guess it is,
It is.
but like your behavior patterns that might change over a period of a life. Yeah, your ability to remember things, your ability to be empathetic or emotionally, your intelligence, perhaps
Yeah,
even
but
like
intelligence has hundreds of variables.
yeah,
You can be your math intelligence, your literary intelligence, your puzzle solving intelligence, your logic. It could be like hundreds of things.
and all of that is we're able to measure that better and better,
So
and all
we
of that could
used
be
to
connected to the entire pipeline
we
somehow.
used to think of each of these as a single variable, like intelligence. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's basically dozens of different genes that are controlling every single variable. You can basically think of, imagine us in a video game where every one of us has measures of, strength, stamina, energy left, and so on and so forth. But you could click on each of those like 5 bars that are just the main bars, and each of those will just give you then hundreds of bars.
Yeah,
And you can basically say, okay, great, for my, machine learning task, I want someone who, I'm a human, who has these particular forms of intelligence. I require now these, 20 different things. And then you can combine those things and then relate them to, of course, performance in a particular task, but you can also relate them to genetic variation that might be affecting different parts of the brain. For example, your frontal cortex versus your temporal cortex versus your visual cortex, and so on and so forth. So genetic variation that affects expression of genes in different parts of your brain can basically affect your, music ability, your auditory ability, your smell, your, just dozens of different phenotypes can be broken down into, hundreds of cognitive variables and then relate each of those to thousands of genes that are associated with them.
so somebody who loves RPGs, role playing games, there's there's too few variables that we can control. So I'm excited if we're in fact living in a simulation and this is a video game. I'm excited by the quality of the video game. The game designer did a hell of a good job. So we're impressed.
Although I don't know, the sunset last night was a little unrealistic.
Yeah, yeah, the graphics.
Exactly.
Come on, NVIDIA.